India and Pakistan have firmly put their boots on the ground. The Indian Army Special Forces Act clearly lays that out. That the people of Kashmir do not have as much rights. The people of Kashmir in India do not have equal rights, or their civil liberties are being trampled upon. The people of Kashmir are lesser than. And that is the story of Kashmir that is never told. I would like to posture that they're going to reunite Kashmir, and those voices are never heard. Both countries would nuke each other before letting Kashmir be independent. If you want to discuss Kashmir, if you want to understand Kashmir, invite the people of Kashmir. Give them a voice. Hello, my name is Shahzad Ghias, and I'm the host of the podcast, The Pakistan Experience. The reason I prefer the format of the podcast is in a long conversation, you can add nuance, you can add context, you can develop a deeper understanding of any issue. The Piers Morgan show is the polar opposite of that. That show is designed for verbal volleys, it's designed for confrontation. So unfortunately, the merits of the argument were not thoroughly examined as they should have been. And the irony of a Brit getting Pakistanis and Indians to fight each other are not lost on me. I've already talked about the rest of the show and the controversies, but I was in the waiting room, so I was unable to hear Wesley Clark's part at the start. I've now seen it, so I would like to address things that he has said at a very surface basic level. My initial comment is that the idea of terrorism has been very malleable for the West and the world in general in terms of what agenda they want to promote when. Last night or the night before, Trump was greeting a man who was recently on the most wanted terrorist list around the world with a 10 million bounty on his head. But suddenly, when America needed him, he became a national hero. And that is how he was sold to the West. So this idea of what is terrorism and what is not has also been historically malleable. So frankly, I was quite shocked to see Wesley Clark right at the start say, is a logical response from India to assume there was a premeditated and coordinated attack by the Pakistani military. In a world where India has not provided an iota of evidence, not a shred of evidence, the reason the entire discussion was reduced to the clown show that you ended up seeing is because nobody really wants to address the fact that there is simply no evidence. Let alone evidence not being provided to Pakistan, because the argument that is made is that in the past we've provided evidence to Pakistan and Pakistan has ended up doing nothing. Well, the world has an international media, the world has United Nations, there are international forums at play. If India is a responsible nation, it should have taken that evidence to other countries, to international media organizations. If you want to paint Pakistan as a terrorist state, as a pariah state, as a problem for the world, and you have the evidence proving that the Pakistani military committed a terrorist act in Pakistan, in India, why would you not show that evidence? The fact that you don't makes one guess that you don't have anything. Which is why these discussions go off into tangents like, this is what Pakistan has historically done, this is who Pakistan are as people, and which is the argument that Ranveer made, which sort of ticked me off, that this is who Pakistanis are. Even when Hina Rabbani Khair was making the argument that Pakistanis are honest people, Ranveer Allahabadiya started chuckling. So the arguments get reduced to the fact that this is who Pakistanis are, this is what they always do, because the truth of the matter is, there is not a single piece of evidence that India has provided to anyone proving that Pakistan committed terrorist acts in Kashmir. Wesley Clark is a general who served in the US Army, so I'm not sure if in his worldview a country can decide to go to war based on flimsy evidence. The United States famously went to war in Iraq over the entire weapons of mass destruction lie, which turned out to be a complete fabrication. Unfortunately, this is not the first time the United States has done this. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, where the US's destroyer Maddox was on an intelligence mission when it claimed on 4th August that it was attacked. Years later, it was revealed that nothing happened on the night of the 4th. But that was used as a pretense to go to war with North Vietnam. A testimony was faked, the famous Nayara testimony at the US Congress. That testimony, where the girl claimed that Iraqi soldiers were committing crimes and brutalities against the Kuwaiti people, including attacking premature babies. That testimony turned out to be a complete lie. So the United States has repeatedly gone to war based on assumptions, based on fabrication, based on lies to further their state agenda. They have used international concepts such as terrorism, such as international law to their advantage to achieve their political goals. Famously, the United States also suffers from the US industrial military complex, which pushes the United States into forever wars because that is good for business. All these weapon manufacturers have people on their payrolls. These connections can be researched by looking at how many people who serve in the US administration and the US military end up in top positions at these firms after retiring. So this connection between the government, the military, and weapons manufacturers ensures that there are a lot of hawkish generals who not only push the United States into war, but also push other countries around the world into war, because like I said, war is good for business. The world has seen wars where both sides have used US weapons against each other. Regardless of who dies, the United States of America makes money. I think the brilliance of the narrative setting that is done by India and the communications is that they always ensure that the entire focus of the conversation is shifted to Pakistan always supporting low-level insurgency or militancy in Kashmir. So the conversation is never about the people who matter the most. The people of Kashmir. They're never put front and center of any conversations about Kashmir. They're never discussed, they're never invited on international forums to discuss these issues. International journalists do not go to Kashmir and give voice to the voiceless people of Kashmir, because on either side of the border, regardless of what your political affiliations are or which country you live in or which country you're watching this from, the fact of the matter is, whether you're on the Pakistan side of Kashmir or whether you're on the Indian side of Kashmir, these are the people who are suffering the most. These are the people who have the right to self-determination, which is being trampled. When these incidents happen in Pakistan, the conversation is always about the rights of the people who are indigenous to this land. Balochistan is a flashpoint and has been a flashpoint throughout most of the history of Pakistan. But the conversation after terrorist attacks take place in Pakistan, regardless of the establishment or the military, blaming India for them is on the legitimate grievances of the Baloch people. I personally have hosted multiple podcasts discussing in detail the legitimate grievances of the Baloch people, leading to a resistance movement in Balochistan. However, nobody in India dares to give the microphone to the people of Kashmir, to put them front and center, to have that conversation. And that is the brilliance of India narrative setting about Kashmir, about shifting the entire spotlight on Pakistan, about making the entire conversation about Pakistan supporting militancy and terrorism, so that nobody has the conversation, which is the need of the hour, about the legitimate rights of the people of Kashmir, about India's repression in Kashmir. And if somebody wants to have a tit-for-tat conversation about Pakistan's repression, I'm happy to have that conversation. I've had those conversations multiple times on my podcast. I am now looking in the eyes of my Indian counterparts and asking you the question: do you just see Kashmir as a territory, or do you genuinely believe that the people of Kashmir are also equal citizens? If they are, why are they not invited on your podcast? Why are they not given a microphone? Not as token representatives of success stories, but to tell the true plight of the people of Kashmir. For somebody who's interested in finding out more about this, on a fictional level, I believe the movie Heather does a brilliant job, but you might actually go and read the actual law. If you don't believe me that the people of Kashmir in India do not have equal rights or their civil liberties are being trampled upon, the Indian Army Special Forces Act clearly lays that out. That the people of Kashmir are lesser than. That the people of Kashmir do not have as much rights as the other citizens of India. And those voices are never heard. Even during the recent conflict, the people of Kashmir were the ones who were sandwiched between India and Pakistan. If I'm to draw an analogy, it felt like two bitterly divorced parents pulling a child apart limb to limb because they'd rather see the child die than be given to the other. And that is the story of Kashmir that is never told. And if somebody thinks that I'm peddling Pakistan's narrative officially might be that they stand with the people of Kashmir, but Pakistan and India both would rather nuke each other and kill 1 million people or so than give up their half of Kashmir. The independence of Kashmir may have been on the table. The cold hard truth may have been on the table historically, but the cold hard truth of the present circumstance is that that possibility, or that sliver of possibility, is looking increasingly unlikely. India and Pakistan have firmly put their boots on the ground. De facto, the line of control between the two countries is international border. And as much as India would like to posture that they're going to reunite Kashmir and take over the entire property, take over the entire territory, including the half that Pakistan has, like I said, Pakistan would rather nuke them than give up Kashmir. And India would rather nuke Pakistan than give up Kashmir. And both countries would nuke each other before letting Kashmir be independent. So what the people of Kashmir want, the Kashmiris, who are the most important people, who are the most important voices in this entire discussion, are the ones that are the most marginalized, are the ones that are the most ignored, are the ones not given any platforms around the world. And to ensure that that happens, India makes sure that the conversation is about Pakistan supporting low-level insurgency and militancy in Kashmir, and not having the conversation about India's repression on the people of Kashmir. Because bear in mind, wherever there is repression, there is resistance. And that resistance sometimes tends to be militant. And if I may talk about my country, the resistance in Balochistan is supported. There is ample evidence that it's supported and at times funded by India, which I'm going to get to. But the entire conversation, the entire discussion that I've ever had about Balochistan is about the legitimate grievances of the people of Balochistan. So my plea to international media is, rather than inviting hawkish generals or podcasters like me, if you want to discuss Kashmir, if you want to understand Kashmir, invite the people of Kashmir. Give them a voice.